Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our very first Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council webinar of 2025. My name is Melody Greaves, and I am the Executive Director of the CNIC. As many of you know, the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council is made up of over 100 members now, we're very proud to say, and that's everything from large-scale producers and irradiators of isotopes, researchers and clinicians, radiopharmaceutical companies, academic institutions, and pretty much any and all companies that connect that pipeline from production to patient. So for our first webinar this year, we wanted to celebrate some of the small companies and entrepreneurs within the isotope supply chain that are actively providing solutions to some of the most complex industry challenges that we see today. Because without these companies, Canada would not be the isotope leader that it has become today. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you all for joining us, and I'd like to welcome our first presenter of the day, Barbara Kephart of Projects Pivot. With 20 plus years of experience teaching technical project management and stakeholder engagement, Barbara is dedicated to helping companies pivot, prioritize, and complete projects with chief project officer level expertise, project professionals, practical training, and hands-on management. Barbara first had a long career in medical diagnostics as a nuclear medicine technologist and ultrasonographer. Barbara is the founder of Projects Pivot, based out of Hamilton, Ontario. Barbara started Projects Pivot to get more projects done right and to strategically support executives, train projects professionals, and ensure a high quality of work. Over to you, Barbara.
Thanks, Melody. And thank you for the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council for inviting me to speak today. So I grew up in a chaotic Irish-Italian family, and I needed to learn how to manage them, and I actually became quite good at it. So I created a company called Projects Pivot, where we take the chaos out of managing projects. I decided to join CNIC after hearing a talk, Melody, you did, at the Toronto Region Board of Trade, and I felt that I could draw on my years of experience of working with medical isotopes as a past nuclear medicine technologist for over 20 years with client projects. So I've been in business for around 10 years, and Projects Pivot was started when my clients asked me to be cloned. So I thought, well, what if I could strategically support executives and train other project professionals to deliver the same quality of projects that I do? So the things that we hear all the time are, which projects do we prioritize? We're stretched thin with headcounts and budgets. Do we really need all these projects? Many companies have way too many projects on their plates, and they haven't really allocated the correct resources and the correct budget for them. The other thing we hear is we don't know the status of our projects are messy. And the one that we don't hear all the time, but we know people are thinking is, isn't project management just busy work? So what we do, so we have a solution for this. We give strategic insights, hands-on project management, and practical training and mentoring that delivers our results. And so how do we deliver this solution, you may ask? So we actually have kind of three different things that we do in one to help a company with their project portfolio strategy. So the first one is what we call our chief project officer. And that's where we evaluate what is it you're trying to do within your company? How many things are you trying to do? How are you accomplishing it? So that's kind of our first piece, our chief project officer strategy. Our middle piece is we assess, train, and we mentor people internally within a company. So this is figuring out who do you have doing your projects, how effective are they? We have assessments that we run with them. And if they're doing a great job, we work with them and we train them and we mentor them and we get these projects out the door. However, if you don't have anybody who's really good at managing projects, or perhaps you might be an earlier stage company and you don't have anybody internally yet, we can pull from our fractional project professional pool. This is where we keep all kinds of different project professionals available to do projects on a project or to lead projects on a project by project basis. So how do we do this? Well, we start by doing something we call a seatbelt session. And this is where we assess project needs and strategy to map out where we're starting from, where are we going? And this is what really the strength of our chief project officers. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we figure out who the right internal staff within the company is doing it. And then if we need to, we bring in one of our exceptional fractional project professionals to get the project done. And then when we go and look to see who is doing the projects and are they effective at it, we have something called our project management gap assessment. This is where we identify where the current project team might need some help. It's a proprietary assessment that we run. And then when we come in to actually do our training, we are using the active company case projects as our training study. So we're not actually taking something from the outside and doing it. We're actually doing things internally and making sure that we're actually using what the company is actually trying to do within their projects. And then this helps create our best practices for project management because project teams learn by doing. Oh, and then our learning management system that we use. So we use a combination of live trainings plus in-person. And then we have some of our asynchronous training that we have on our learning management system called Projects Practice. So this is just a couple examples of how we do things. Now, remember, there's many different ways and it is client specific. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just to give you an example of how we work to actually get practical project management done out there. So we do something where we project prioritize, and this helps us develop a focused roadmap for the company so they can really see, especially leaders of companies, they don't always know how many projects a company has going at any one time. We also have what we do feasibility studies, because many times company jumps straight in to do a project, and in fact, it may not be feasible to do that project. So we might run a feasibility study to make sure you can actually really do it based on your budget, your constraints, available resources. Sometimes people also think of these in more discovery studies, but they can be feasibility assessment. We also work to operationalize projects. Many leaders of organizations don't always know what is a project and what is not. So helping understand what it actually means to do the work within your company. Is it a project, is it not? Or is it just the day-to-day operations of your projects? As well as once a project is done, how to make it part of your company. And then another last example here, something I'm seeing more and more is aligning product to project. A product is a project. And when we complete project deliverables, that actually leads to a newer and improved product. And so making sure that we're not so focused on product management that we're ignoring project management and vice versa. So people always ask us, what methodology do we use? And do know that we're not going to get into full details on methodology, but there's always more than one way to run a project. I've put some examples up there so you can see what it is. And also understanding that by making sure that the correct methodology is chosen at the right time, it enhances the efficiency and effectiveness of a project and it drives success. Also, do know that sometimes you have to use combinations of these methodologies to get something out. Many people will stick to just one methodology and not understand why their projects are always running over budget over a time. So I mentioned that we have chief project officers, but we have other project people, of course, as well. I'll go into who our chief project officers are. However, we also have project professionals, we have data and business analysts, and we have subject matter experts that we keep a large pool available, and those are the ones that we bring in on a project by project basis. So a little bit about me. So I grew up actually in a family-owned imaging clinic in Northern Ontario. That's how I learned about nuclear medicine, because it was at one of the imaging clinics that my family owned. And I went to nuclear medicine school. And now I'm dating myself because back when I went to nuclear medicine school, which is at the Michener Institute in Toronto, we were trained in anything that had to do with the teensiest bit of medical isotope. So back then we were trained in how to do bone densitometry with something called DPA scanners at the time, because they used an isotope source. I was also trained in radioimmunoassays in the lab because they had trace radioisotopes in that. Now both of those are no longer used, but just giving you an idea of how long I've been in the field of nuclear medicine. And even back then, MRI used to be called NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance, but actually had no isotope involved, but we were also trained in that. And when I was still a nuclear medicine student, I did research on dual isotope imaging and scatter correction when I was at the Ottawa Heart Institute, and presented my findings to the Society of Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging, which at that time was called the Society of Nuclear Medicine, or SNM as we like to call it. And then one last fun fact about me, I'm actually a product of the Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, from the early 1990s. I moved to California through NAFTA because of the demand of nuclear medicine techs for a one-year contract, which landed into 25 years that I live in California. I am a dual citizen of Canada and the US. I went to UC Berkeley for project management school, and Cheryl Allen, one of my chief project officers, taught me project management. So I'm very lucky to have Cheryl on our team. She not only has taught project management for a long time, many years. She's also worked with large agencies such as the California Department of Water Resources. And Shirley is based out of California and Lake Tahoe, but can travel as needed when we do our in-person training. Annie McLeod is a newer addition to our team, and she's an expert at building highly effective teams through collaboration, using both virtual and in-person toolings, especially her experiences for companies that are experiencing high growth periods. Annie is based out of Kelowna, British Columbia. There's a couple highlights from our clients. These are all available at our website, projectspivot.com. Just, we've hit every milestone on a project. This second one I really liked. We now have the benchmark for exceptional rigor for every project we implement moving forward. I'm relieved to know you're handling this. Came from a client that we've been working on a very complex project for maybe about 6 months, and they were going on vacation, and they were give me that quote that I'm so relieved you're handling this while I'm gone until I get back. As well as Projects Pivot is key in aligning our project strategy and quickly and effectively. This is another example of a testimonial. This is Dr. Goddell is someone that we've worked with in the past with the Department of Water Resources through Cheryl. We did some training, and this is a quote on the training aspect. You can see these all on our website. Here's some of our clients we've worked with and some of our partners, just to give you an example of the type of people that we work with. Some small companies, large companies, it varies. We have done work all across North America and been starting to move into Europe. So lastly, as I finish up, I'd like to end with a call to action. How can you help your projects and your products for that matter? So I call this follow the C's. Communicate with leadership on the importance of aligning your project portfolio to your overall business strategy, making sure that those two really align. Converse with your project professionals in your company to help navigate the project professionals, collaborate with other companies doing the same type of projects, or the last C, you can always chat with us and we do something called Pick Our PM Brain that we can help you sort through your projects. So we're on a mission to help you love your projects again. Here's our contact information, and thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Barbara, for sharing this story and sharing about Projects Pivot, which I think is such a great example of how passion can lead to great future opportunities for business leadership. For anyone in our audience today, I just wanted to mention that we will have some time towards the end of the webinar for some questions, so please feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A feature at any time. I'd now like to turn it over to our friends from Sage Engineering Services, Ryan Bazdeo and Golbahar Rafinajad. Ryan is the Senior Director at Sage Engineering Services and oversees its business development and client services. With over 15 years of experience working with top 10 global pharmaceutical companies, Ryan has demonstrated leadership in industrial manufacturing environments from feasibility to full-scale operations. Ryan has extensive experience in the areas of parenteral drug visual inspection, process and equipment design, machine vision, and manufacturing automation within the pharmaceutical and radiopharmaceutical industry. Joining Ryan is Golbahar. Golbahar is the Director of Operations at Sage Engineering Services, bringing over 15 years of experience in FDA and Health Canada regulated industries. Golbahar specializes in radiopharmaceuticals facility engineering, sterile and solid dose manufacturing, equipment validation, and project management. Thank you to Golbahar and Ryan for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for the warm introduction, Melody. So we are super excited and honored to be joining the CNIC. We truly admire the work being done to promote Canada's position in the global medical community. And today we want to tell you about our company, Sage, and how we support this incredible ecosystem. First, just a brief overview. So we are a consulting firm, and we specialize in providing engineering services within the radiopharmaceutical industry. This includes the full life cycle for processes, equipment, and facilities. We are actually celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. Since our inception, we have seen the industry make tremendous progress in support of innovative treatments. Our 20 employees are based in Oakville, Ontario, and this is a picture of our office. And our team consists of engineers, project managers, and specialists. Over 95% of our business is in pharma, with 75% of that portion being in radiopharma. Because it's a major focus of our business, we are well equipped to deal with the technical challenges that our clients and the industry faces as a whole. The mission of our company is further reinforced through our core values of quality, teamwork, and commitment. With a quality mindset, we believe that fully integrating project teams is the key to success. We like to work together with our clients to implement solutions at work. Our commitment extends from our employees to our clients and ultimately through the supply chain that delivers these life-saving therapies to patients. Which brings us to our services. As part of our integrated project delivery approach, we provide equipment and facility engineering, compliance and validation, and project management services. Ultimately, our goal is to help our clients get from R&D to small-scale clinical and eventually to full-scale commercialization. As we know, radiopharmaceuticals are difficult to produce. In the industry, there's a large demand for expertise. This is met with a short supply of knowledge and experience within the workforce, especially here in Canada. Here at Sage, we build that expertise in-house. We have developed innovative and robust learning and development programs to ensure our consultants are trained on the current regulations and best practices within the sector. Some of the areas you see listed here are highly complex. In addition to expertise, we believe that good relationships with OEMs and suppliers are key. This will help the industry develop the technology and compliance framework for the supply of radiopharmaceutical drugs. So this brings us to our why. Sage is dedicated to advancing and driving innovation in radiopharmaceutical manufacturing in Canada. We consider ourselves to be an integral part of this growing ecosystem. Engineering services serves as a critical link between radiopharmaceutical manufacturers, OEMs, and facility service providers. At Sage, we help bridge technical gaps to identify best solutions efficiently. This ensures that life-saving treatments are manufactured and distributed quickly, safely, and with the highest quality standards. We can help the industry address many challenges we consider to be priorities for our clients. And to discuss some of those challenges with you, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Gulbahar.
Thank you, Ryan. As Ryan mentioned, our ultimate goal is to support the growing demand for life-saving radiopharmaceutical drugs. Leveraging our expertise, we aim to highlight some of the key challenges our clients face to drive continuous improvement within the industry. Given the short lifespan of radiopharmaceutical products, there has been a notable increase in facility construction and retrofits to ensure timely delivery of patient doses, both locally within the GTA and nationwide. Our team is proud to contribute to these critical facility design and construction projects. During the design phase, inadequate planning and competing priorities can lead to delays and confusion. To mitigate this, we offer comprehensive pre-design packages that cover key considerations upfront. This includes sterility and containment requirements, workflows, classifications, shielding, equipment specification, exhaust filtration, and utility needs. By addressing these details early, we minimize contamination risks, improve operational efficiency, and reduce costly rework, all while ensuring regulatory compliance. Radiopharmaceutical regulations can be complex, and many design firms may not have the necessary expertise in this area. That's why we stay actively involved throughout the design and construction phases. By taking this proactive approach, we ensure that facilities are not only safe and compliant, but also ready to meet both current and future client needs. Another common challenge faced by our clients in this sector is the procurement of specialized equipment. Through our experience supporting the procurement of numerous hot cells, we have identified recurring challenges that our radiopharma clients encounter. Hot cells are critical to this sector, but during procurement, there are often unknowns about finalized processes for both the facility and the drug product. As I am sure many of us have experienced, design modifications can be costly and time-consuming. That's why our team ensures critical considerations such as site constraints, operator workflows, material handling, shielding, and ergonomics are addressed upfront. Over the past decade, SAGE has built strong relationships with key hot cell vendors and acted as an intermediary for our clients to ensure alignment and clear expectations between all parties. We accomplish this by developing detailed and thorough URS documents and offering comprehensive project management services. This encompasses continuous technical oversight throughout the entire project lifecycle, from design through to final commissioning and validation. Last but not least, automation. Because of the risk of longer exposure time with radioactive materials, automation can help improve safety when compared to manual processes. For example, dispensing, visual inspection, and packaging are some processes that benefit from semi-automated or fully automated systems to reduce operator handling. Automation also allows for larger batch sizes when scaling up from clinical to commercial operations. However, when you consider certain capital funding constraints and the high value of the drug product, automation can be challenging to justify from a cost perspective. We understand the pros and cons of each approach and can help answer the question, should we automate? I mentioned visual inspection. This is a good example of a process that needs to meet regulatory requirements while ensuring the safety of the operator inspecting the vial. An automated inspection process is something that the industry should work towards. However, these systems may have a high reject rate, which results in revenue loss and product waste. So those are some of the challenges our clients face. And with the right expertise and partnerships, we can all work together to find solutions that will advance the collective mission of the industry. Right. That brings us to the end. We thank you all for your time and attention, and we'd like to extend a special thanks to Evan, Melody, and the CNIC for inviting us to participate in this member showcase. We look forward to collaborating with fellow CNIC members to drive innovation and success within the radiopharma industry.
Great. Thank you so much, Golbahar and Ryan, for this interesting presentation. It's always so fascinating to see the kinds of talent and ingenuity that we have here in Canada, right across the entire supply chain. For our next two presentations, we're actually going to pivot our focus a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, CNIC has over 100 members now, and while many of them are Canadian companies, we also have a fairly large contingent of international leaders that are increasingly interested in Canada as a place to do business and establish operations, or whose services are helping to identify different gaps within Canada's existing supply chain. As a result, I'm very excited to welcome our next presenter, Dr. Dirk Freitag-Stell of Cup Contract Labs. Dirk studied chemistry at the Technical University of Dresden. After his dissertation in the field of organic chemistry, a research stay at the Polo Scientifico Ugo Schiff in Florence, and a position as laboratory manager in the Central Research Department of Henkel AG & Co. in Düsseldorf, he took over the management of Cup Contract Labs in 2008, which is now a GMP contract laboratory specializing in chemical and microbiological analyses in the radiopharmaceutical sector, and which he still manages today as the sole shareholder. Over to you, Dirk.
Thank you, Melody, for having me, and it's a real honor to have the possibility to present here at this CNIC webinar. Just give me a second. Yes, and I'm really impressed about the talks of Barbara and the colleagues of SAGE. And what we learned is that producing of radiopharmaceuticals is complex. But why are people then producing radiopharmaceuticals if it's so complex and you need isotopes and you need shielding and it's dangerous sometimes if you don't know what you do? The reason is the age of radiopharmaceuticals is about to come or has come. And this is the reason for us as COP Contract Labs to look over to North America and especially to Canada, because Canada, in my opinion, is one of the global largest growing regions for radiopharmaceuticals. And so it's interesting for us. And what Canada needs, what people who are producing radiopharmaceutical need are specialized service providers. And this is our mission. Our mission is to lead the way in complex pharmaceutical analysis, and we want to be the trailblazer for the safe and rapid development, approval, and quality control of complex pharmaceuticals. As we learned at SAGE, it's difficult to produce radiopharmaceuticals, but trust me, it's also difficult to test it. And why are we doing that? With our customers, we share a common goal. Radiopharmaceuticals have the possibility, the potential to give hope to people who suffer, for instance, from cancer or other diseases with unmet need. And our common goal is to give hope to that people and to help to produce radiopharmaceuticals. And we, with our GMP contract lab services, support manufacturers of radiopharmaceuticals. We have now more than 30 years experience in doing analysis, but we didn't start in radiopharmaceuticals. Here on the left-hand side, you can see my mother in 1992, and our lab was founded in the basement of the house of my parents as an environmental lab. And since then, we developed to a GMP contract lab here in Dresden-Radeberg, which is 200 kilometers south of Berlin, and which we call Radiopharmaceutical Valley because we have some hidden champions or not so hidden champions like a company called ABX or Rotop here. And this is the reason why we at CUP Contract Labs have now more than 20 years of experience in testing radiopharmaceuticals. We have 70 people working with us. We are GMP certified and we are also FDA inspected. And we have great people working with us. We have chemists, we have physicists, we have biologists, and also, which is special in German, we have a large number of very, very skilled and well-educated technicians because what you get, and this is the same with Barbara and also with the colleagues of SAGE, what you get from your service providers is the knowledge, the talent, the empathy, the passion of the co-workers. And this is what we have here in-house, and we share it with our customers. And I said, testing of radiopharmaceuticals is special, but testing of radiopharmaceuticals, like you test other pharmaceuticals, is crucial to explore the field and to bring safe and efficient pharmaceuticals to the market. We have one very special service, which is sterility testing. We do it in-house using membrane filtration without decay. And to the best of my knowledge, we are the only company worldwide who is doing that. And we have patented the process under multiple patents, a US patent and a Canadian one is also there. And we're doing it in-house with membrane filtration. Of course, we are doing also direct inoculation, but to the best of my knowledge, membrane filtration without decay is superior to direct inoculation. And as we said, shipment of radiopharmaceuticals is always difficult. So our goal is to bring the analysis also to our customers and to automate also the sterility test, for instance. And so we invented something we call a register cassette. The patent is pending, and you can see it here. Here's the prototype on a module of traces. And we expect with our licensee to have the cassette in the market by latest end of the year. And so our customers who are normally CDMOs, CMOs, but also big pharma companies can do a sterility test with membrane filtration exactly according to the monographs in-house. If you produce some sterile injection, particles is always a problem. If you find particles in your sterile production and you do not identify the root cause, you will have a sure 483 from the FDA. What we can do is identify particles in hot products with IR technique, and we can say our clients what is the nature of the particle, and he can also have a photo for that, for the root cause analysis. And last not least, we learned that automation using cassettes is almost every time done if you produce a radiopharmaceutical. And so the radioactivity will get, the product will get in contact with plastics. And a topic which you cannot find at the moment worldwide besides our labs is the test of hot leachables, extractables in radioactive products. We're using several complex technologies for that, and we have a lot of experience in doing E&L studies. Coming to the end, you should have learned today the age of radiopharmaceuticals is about to come. We have the opportunity to help a lot of people and to bring hope to patients who are suffering from cancer. Producing, testing radiopharmaceuticals is a complex task. We at COP Contract Labs love complex tasks. We have the talent and we have the passion to solve it. And of course, we are looking forward to complex tasks. So Melody and team, thank you again for organizing this great webinar. Thank you again for having me. And I'm looking forward to help with you, a lot of people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dirk, for joining us today. And we are certainly have a lot of excitement to have you as part of the CNIC to share your unique capabilities with us. Before I introduce our last presenter of the day, I just wanted to remind everyone in the audience to submit your questions using the Q&A feature. Once Tom has presented, then we will go through the Q&A and we're happy to ask any questions to any of the presenters today. So last and certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Tom Haywood of Astral Systems. With extensive knowledge in the nuclear medicine and radiochemistry field, Tom leads Astral's stakeholder engagement in the nuclear medicine industry. Tom has held positions in both the UK and USA in top-ranking academic institutions and world-leading industry. Thanks, Tom, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Melody. Thanks for the introduction. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Hopefully you can see my screen. Yeah, thank you, Melody. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to CNIC for the invitation to present. I'm Tom Haywood, Director of Market Development for Nuclear Medicine at Astral Systems. So, in short, we make compact fusion reactors as neutron sources for the production of medical isotopes. Our reactors use lattice confinement fusion. They are IEC fusion reactors running deuterium-deuterium or deuterium-tritium. These fusion reactors produce neutrons, which we will use to produce isotopes. Our team is comprised of a number of different people, nuclear physicists, radiochemists, range of engineers, amongst others. So the concept of Astral started back in 2019 when Tom Wallace-Smith, our CTO and co-founder, met Dr. Mahmoud Bakr in Kyoto, Japan, working at the IEC Fusion Labs there. In April 2020, NASA published a paper on lattice confinement fusion. Very briefly, this is the concept that fusion can take place in a solid material rather than a plasma, and fusion in a solid has a much lower activation energy. Just after this, in May 2020, Tom Willis-Smith met Talman Firestone, who is Canadian himself. He is our CEO and also co-founder. Talman had previously commercialized IEC reactors back in the early 2000s at a company called NSD Fusion, which, to be honest, the company was probably ahead of its time for those days. Between then and now, we've demonstrated a series of improvements in performance and neutron output, along with a series of funding rounds and growing the team. So back to medical isotopes. There are two major methods of isotope production in nuclear medicine: protons or neutrons. Typically, the majority of cases, protons come from a cyclotron, neutrons come from a fission reactor. We are interested in the neutrons. However, fission reactors are not the only source of neutrons. Fusion, as you may have guessed, is our main interest, which you may have already gathered. It's important to say that we are not looking at any energy production as most other fusion companies are. Our technology is focused on high energy neutrons for isotope production, realizing the benefits of fusion in the next 1 to 2 years rather than the next 20 to 30 years. So how do we fit into this? We want to enable local production of isotopes. We want to do what we want to do to neutron produce isotopes what cyclotrons have done for proton produce isotopes. So moving away from large centralized production in aging fission reactors. Our reactors are small. This is a reactor that we're standing in front of here, or behind, sorry. Our reactors are small and relatively low cost. They're safe as they contain no fissile material. We can fit these into facilities with existing radiochemistry capabilities already. Other than the size and cost, there are some key differences between our reactors and fission reactors. There are some differences in the energy profile. That's the energy of the neutrons that come out of these compared to fission reactors. Fission reactors are predominantly in the thermal neutron range, whereas our DT reactions produce fast, high-energy 14 MeV neutrons. 14 MeV nuclear reactions haven't been greatly explored as in the past, particularly for nuclear medicine, as there hasn't really been a good source of these fast 14 MeV neutrons available worldwide. However, these fast high-energy neutrons open up what are called threshold reactions. These are N2N, N3N, NP, and alpha reactions. This can open up a huge number of isotopes and alternative routes to existing isotopes that have not been previously possible, and we're just starting to explore now. So we have a wide range of list of isotopes that we're interested in, which is ever growing. Some common, others are less so. All of these isotopes listed here have been used in published studies, some preclinical, others clinical, some even in approved radiopharmaceuticals. All of these we have potential routes to using our system. One thing you may notice isn't on here is technetium-99 and moly-99. We're interested in more emerging isotopes, you could say. We're always looking to explore novel isotopes and different nuclear reactions as well. So just to summarize, we manufacture compact fusion reactors. We produce these reactors as a neutron source for the production of medical isotopes. However, they do have other uses as well. We have high energy neutrons at 14 MeV. These open up the possibility of threshold reactions. We're interested in a wide range of isotopes, and we're very much always open to collaboration. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Tom, so much for joining us today and highlighting the work that Astral is doing. I think it's so exciting to see the future possibilities of this kind of technology and what this might mean for the Canadian isotope industry. I'd now like to open up the floor to some questions from the audience. So just a reminder to everyone to please feel free to submit any questions you've got using the Q&A function. I see that we've gotten one question already for Dirk. This one is from Carlos. He asks, just to clarify, the cassette presented in your demonstration will be for sterility testing via membrane filtration using a Traces Mini AIO only?
The answer is first, yes. The first cassettes will be for the Traces Mini AIO, but I'm quite sure it will be a huge success for the market, and maybe our licensee will also develop cassettes for other modules. But if you want to use it this year, you most possibly need a Traces Mini AIO.
Thanks, Dirk. I see a question that's come in from James asking if presentations will be available after the webinar is done. Just wanted to confirm that yes, the full recording of this event will be available on the CNIC's website, as well as our YouTube channel in the next couple of days. So you'll be able to take a look back at any of the presentations. If you'd like to connect individually with any of the companies that we featured today as well, we are happy to provide introductions to anybody. Just please reach out to myself or my team. For my next question here, I wanted to go back to SAGE, so Ryan or Golbahar, whichever one of you would like to answer this. As SAGE Engineering has been in the sector for quite a long time, congratulations on your 25th anniversary this year, I'm sure you would both agree that it's growing quite rapidly. Is SAGE planning on increasing in capacity to support more clients? And how are you working to anticipate the needs of this future industry?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Melody. As I mentioned, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth within this sector, and we're really sort of, building our company around this demand. And we see that, trying to recruit or hire folks with this type of experience is very difficult. So we've taken that challenge internally, and that's what I mentioned about building our own learning and development program. So we feel our business is definitely scalable to handle sort of where we think the industry is going. And we're very excited to be part of that as well.
Thanks. And then over to Barbara for our next question here. Can you share a little bit more about the broad range of clients that you work with? I know you had that slide with quite a few different individuals that you've done projects management for in the past. How does working across these multiple different sectors poise you to deliver for clients in the isotope space specifically?
Because we've seen a lot. I thought actually when I first started my business that I would stay specific to healthcare, and just with life circumstances and moving back to Canada, it made me had to pivot, which is why my company has the word pivot in it. And I had to keep going. And so I went from working with medical safety for many, many years. I moved into student safety on the academic side, working with large academic institutions. And then interestingly, when I first came, I moved to the Guelph area, and I was working around food safety. And what I was finding that was common across all three is that everybody's having the same problems of getting their projects out the door. So something that we might use in a medical isotope project that might be running into some stalls or some stakeholder issues, we may have actually learned from managing an agri-food project where we're dealing with supply chain issues or issues with the same communication challenges. So I do feel that project managers that have a tendency to stay within their lanes and they manage only one type of project, they have a tendency to have a lot of limiting beliefs, and they think there's only one way of doing things. So I believe that coming from the wide variety of industries that we've covered can really help us be very flexible and agile when managing medical isotope projects.
Thank you, Barbara. And then Tom, I'm coming over to you for my next one here. Just understanding that the technology that Astral Systems is developing is so unique. Are you able to share a little bit about the timeline for when these systems might be fully operational and delivered globally, and potentially if there's a timeline on when you'd anticipate that you might be prepared to deliver here in Canada?
Sure. Yeah. So we currently have systems up and running in the UK, which are our kind of like research reactors. We're in the process of starting our kind of manufacturing at the moment. So we're looking in the next kind of 6 to 9 months, we'll be kind of rolling out our first kind of commercially available reactors for purchase. Yeah, and then it's, I mean, yeah, I guess that's it, 6 to 9 months, and then hopefully we'll kind of speed things up as we progress.
Great. And I'm going to stay with you, Tom, and then I think transition to Dirk quickly, because I have a question for the both of you that I'm curious if you could share with the audience. Given that you're both internationally based companies, what was it about Canada's isotope industry in particular that attracted you as a place to do business?
Sure. I'll go first. Yeah, sure. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
As I mentioned, we have 3 members of our team are actually based in Canada. So Talman, our CEO, is based in Toronto. Also, we've been collaborating with McMaster University, and I think Canada just seems to have one of the healthiest attitudes towards nuclear medicine and isotope production out of many countries, and it's just kind of encouraging to kind of work somewhere that is encouraged and isn't just kind of drowned in red tape and bureaucracy.
Absolutely agree. It's this healthy attitude towards nuclear medicine, which brings you global leading CDMOs and manufacturers of radioisotopes, which are, of course, interesting clients and partner for us. So yeah, absolutely agree.
Thank you. I've got another question for Dirk here in the chat as well. Are there any identified partnerships or opportunities within the Canadian isotope community where CUP contract labs could contribute to advancing and bridging existing gaps? I think the short answer would be yes.
Yeah, clear yes. And we have already some partnerships. And what is happening now is that radiopharmaceuticals grow up from babies to adults. And if they are adults, they have to fulfill the rules of the big pharmaceutical industry. And I showed you that sterility test, particles, leachables, extractables are tasks we are working on. And there will be a lot more tests or tasks to have to be solved for the pharmaceutical industry, for the radiopharmaceutical industry. So clear yes, and we are working on it.
Great, thank you, Dirk. I've got a couple of questions here that have come in all along the theme of workforce development or co-op placements. And so perhaps Ryan or Gulbahar, I'll start with you. The work being done with respect to nuclear isotopes is very exciting and has lots of different possibilities and potential applications. Do you have any thoughts on how small businesses in particular can get more involved in communicating these opportunities with students? And what is your approach to workforce planning as a small company?
Yeah, I can take that one. I think as Ryan mentioned, we realized that, what we're looking for, the skill set can't be just brought in externally. It's very specialized, and that's why we do have the learning and development programs around radiopharma, facility engineering, equipment engineering, and project management on the technical side of these projects. So we really emphasize training internally so that we can get the workforce that we need. In terms of the communication, I think there's some great organizations that are doing that, and I think McMaster University is just down the street from us, and I do see the communication and the engagement with the students within the university that is happening, and I think that can be scalable across the country. And I think we definitely play a role in explaining what we do and the future careers that exist for these students.
And maybe I'll ask the same question to Barbara. You've had quite a long and diverse career in this space. And so how have you seen things change over the past years? And where do you see things going in terms of workforce planning for small businesses in this space?
Yeah, and I want to make a quick comment to the earlier comment about why Canada for nuclear isotopes. Even though I had trained here in Toronto and gone through all of my schooling here, and when I went to the US to actually practice in nuclear medicine, I was astounded that many isotopes are just not available because they were held up in that red tape. And so as a provider, it it seemed just that these patients were not getting the same level of opportunity of specific isotopes, in particular some of the therapy isotopes that were available in Canada. So as a comment on that. Yes, I do believe that people need to be trained within their specific areas of expertise. I do believe, though, specifically from a project management perspective, that people have to really know and have the skill sets to be a good project manager. That's why we run something called what we call a knowledge gap assessment, a PM knowledge gap assessment, to determine, because there's many people who can do a really good job managing projects off the sides of their desks. So for example, scientists, engineers, they're actually very good at it, but they really prefer being back at their main buckets of work that they want to do. So having them have the ability to be able to project manage, yet as quickly as possible get back to what they really enjoy doing, I think that's the value, as well as making those ones who are really good project managers shine. Those still might be an engineer or a scientist or someone with a triple PhD, but they actually prefer managing the projects, not always being directly in the subject matter expertise, and recognizing when you were in each. So I think this is a thing that I noticed as well when I manage medical projects, especially around nuclear isotopes and radioisotopes. I have to remember, when am I a subject matter expert and when am I actually needing to manage the projects? Because we can get so in the weeds when we're a subject matter expert that we forget, oh, we've missed some deadlines, oh, we've moved on. And so understanding that, and I think in workforce training and helping people understand the differences between those two is very important.
Great, thank you. I think we've got time for perhaps one or two more questions. So Tom, I've got a question for you here in the chat. Can you describe the advantages of fusion-based nuclear isotopes compared to nuclear reactor and cyclotron-based isotopes?
Sure. I think it really depends on the isotope. We're not trying to kind of displace cyclotrons or anything. So for example, F-18, in theory, we could make it, but there's no advantage to make it using our system than there is over a cyclotron. What we really focus on is looking at the isotopes that do pose an advantage, and that could be higher purity of production. It could be a different starting material, a different target isotope, which is much cheaper or kind of more readily available. One other thing that we're kind of looking at further down the line is, because we can set up our systems very locally, is looking at shorter therapeutic isotopes. So isotopes with a shorter half-life. Most therapeutic isotopes at the moment have a half-life of around a week-ish. If we could look at shorter half-life isotopes and set up locally, we could kind of reduce transport costs and open up different isotopes which haven't been able to be used previously.
Thanks, Tom. I think from a CNIC's perspective, we always recognize that we need all kinds of technologies to provide sufficient isotopes and provide that reliable supply that we need for the broad range of applications within healthcare and beyond. And so I think it's exciting to hear about new technologies that might help broaden that scope and provide additional reliability to that pipeline. Just recognizing that we're almost at time here, I wanted to very quickly thank all of our presenters today for joining us. It's always so fascinating to me to learn about the real depth and breadth of expertise that we've got within our CNIC membership, both between companies that are already established here in Canada to those that might be potentially looking at Canada and looking how they can support the operations that are going on here in Canada. Before we wrap up today, there are a couple of exciting CNIC events that I'd like to flag for everyone today. First, I am very excited to announce that registration for the 2025 Canadian Radiotheranostics Leaders Summit is officially open as of this morning. This is an event that's jointly held by the CNIC, a coalition of academic centres, including the University Health Network, BC Cancer, London Health Sciences, and the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, in partnership with the Canadian Medical Isotope Ecosystem. This registration will be on primarily invite-only basis. So if you're interested in attending the event this year, please reach out to myself or a member of my team. There are also still lots of opportunities to showcase the work you're doing through sponsorship and exhibitor booths as well. So please reach out to us if you're interested. I also wanted to highlight that nominations for the CNIC Awards for the 2024 year are now open. We've got 6 awards to give out this year, so if you know of a company or a leader who might fit these awards, please feel free to submit your nominations on the CNIC website. We will be hosting the award ceremony on the sidelines of the CNA conference again in Ottawa this year, and look forward to seeing many of you there. Lastly, I'm happy to announce our next webinar of the year as part of our final installment in our 3-part investment series that's done in partnership with the Canadian Medical Isotope Ecosystem. I hope you'll join us on February 24th to learn more about the process of developing new radiopharmaceutical drugs in Canada, and some of the challenges associated with navigating different regulatory processes, both in Canada and the US. Registration is now open for that event as well, so please make sure that you check it out if you're interested. As always, the best way to stay up to date with us is to subscribe to the CNIC newsletter and to follow us on social media as well. With that, I'd like to once again thank our presenters today, Projects Pivot, Sage Engineering Services, CUP Contract Labs, and Astral Systems, for sharing your expertise with us today, and to our audience for joining us and for providing such engaging questions in the Q&A as well. I hope to see many of you at another CNIC event in the near future. Thank you.